This is Cult Film Face-Off.
Hello and welcome to Cult Film Face-Off, episode 43. With me, as always, is Chet Roivas.
Hello.
And I am Nick Leonard. In this episode, we are looking at two noughties lycanthrope themed films. Brotherhood of the Wolf from 2001, directed by Christophe Gans, and Neil Marshall's Dog Soldiers from a year later in 2002. So, let's get to it with Brotherhood of the Wolf. A mysterious beast terrorizes the province Givaudan in France. It is up to a knight and his Native American friend to investigate these killings and apprehend the beast. Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Behind a veil of riches and reason lies a mystery hidden from view, killing all that get in its way. But now, two men sent to uncover the truth are about to encounter their greatest fear. A deadly secret, a dark power, even greater than they ever imagined. Universal Pictures and Studio Canal are proud to present an ancient legend. Now, a stunning cinematic vision. The film that took Europe by storm. Christophe Gans' masterpiece. Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Okay, before we dissect this one, a big thanks to Andrew Smith who suggested this pairing. Big up yourself!
Yeah.
So, Brother the Wolf, Chet, have you seen it?
I saw it at the cinema with a friend who, I think that was his first foreign language movie, first subtitled movie he'd ever seen, and I think it's the last subtitled movie he ever saw as well. But we both absolutely loved it at the cinema. I hadn't seen it since, but yeah, loved it back in the day. Did you see it at the cinema? No, you didn't, did you?
I didn't see it at the cinema. Such a cinematic film.
Yeah, big time. But you saw it?
No, I haven't seen it. Yeah, I saw it. I saw when it came out on the rental market.
Is it still good?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, absolutely. My memory was pretty hazy. I remember it had Mark Dacascos. I remember it was certainly not your atypical type of 18th century costume sort of film, and yeah, it's kind of. I remember it being a bit overlong when I first watched it, and it is a bit overlong still now. But I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean it's stylish, it's stylised, it's lush, it's ornate. It looks great. I mean, the setup is. I really like a film which immediately just sticks the flag in the ground of what sort of film it's going to kind of be, and it's like you're introduced to Mark Dacascos and Fransak, who are the two main protagonists in the film. And basically, they just open up a can of fucking whoop-ass, and it's just filmed beautifully. There's just great action, and yeah, that's kind of. I was just like, brilliant. It just captured the mood instantly. This is not going to be your run-of-the-mill kind of fare. What did you think of rewatching it now?
Yeah, I liked it. I think it's a really, really fine film. I wasn't so sure about that opening fight scene though, because it's well done, it's well choreographed and everything, but it relies on it's so much on slow motion. And
well, if you don't like slow motion, this film's going to grind your gears, because there is a shitload of slow motion. But I didn't. I just kind of got swept up with the whole thing. I didn't mind the slow motion.
It's not just the slow motion; it's also that there's multiple shots of rainwater dripping off the weapons slowly, and I just thought it was a warning sign. I thought, oh shit, this is going to be style over substance, and it's going to have aged really badly. And also, Christophe Gans, the director, subsequently made one of the worst films I've ever seen, which is Silent Hill, which is all style and it's anti-substance, that film. So I think that's the most overtly stylised moment in the whole film, and I think it kind of takes a step back after that.
No, I think there's a few moments that he really. I mean, there's a killing which is done. Literally half of the killing of this woman is done in slow motion, with her trying to get out of the water.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And the drops are coming down. What I like about Brotherhood of the Wolf is that it's just a complete mashup of genres. You've got action. You've got, at times it feels a little bit like a Western. You've got a romantic storyline going on in there. It's just, I mean, it's just a proper genre mashup. There's erotica in there, there's horror in there. And it's just done by a guy. You can see Christophe Gans is a guy who's just in love with a lot of these genres. There's a lot of kind of tropes that he pulls up, for instance, in martial arts films. There's a reoccurring theme in martial arts films is that when a character's ally, friend is killed, spoiler alert, he goes on like a revenge rampage, but he takes on fighting style of Manny, and even the look of Manny as well. He paints his face in the kind of the tribal way. That's the thing that's done in old school martial arts films time and time and again. And I really like that.
When I sat down to watch this film, I took note of the running time, and I thought, wow, I don't remember it being like what is it? It's almost 2.5 hours, is it? 2.25 hours
I think
or so?
it's definitely 2:10. It's definitely over 2:10 mark.
Yeah, I don't recall it being that long, so I automatically started watching it thinking, what would I cut out? At first I thought maybe we could lose the wolf hunt at the beginning, but that does actually serve a purpose. And then the sex scene came along, and I thought, you could chop this, but it is actually a dramatic scene that actually serves a purpose. So I don't think this actually wastes any time, so I don't hold it against it. That I don't think you can actually cut a whole lot out of this film without harming it somewhat. So I actually think it's long for a reason. This film reminds me kind of, and I don't love these movies, but I mean this as a compliment, it kind of reminds me of those Guy Ritchie Sherlock Holmes films, although Holmes is the kick-ass one in this, and I do think it benefits from turning into a kind of men on a mission movie halfway through, and the acting is just really, really top-notch. Mark Dacascos is just charismatic as hell. He's only like 50, 52 or 53 at the moment, so there's still time for him to become like an icon or something, because I don't know what, who knows what it is, but he's got it. He's the most charismatic guy of all time. And there's some really terrific scenes in it I absolutely love. I remember loving it in the cinema, that scene where they use those sort of trio of traps to try and trap the beast.
It's the highlight that when they're trying to capture the beast with these with the various rigged traps. Kind of almost was a head nod to Predator, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
But they've done it on a much grander scale.
And it's so much better, the fact that it just kind of comes out of nowhere. You're not showing them going through all the sort of details of them setting up. It just comes wham out of nowhere. I thought that was a really exciting bit. And yeah, like you said, I love the sort of almost silent sequence where De Frontenac goes fucking ham on everyone after Manny dies. That's a really great.
It's a great scene. Just really full of atmosphere. Really well acted. Just great hand-to-hand action. Yeah, I mean. It's interesting, I think, the comparison of Sherlock Holmes, because there's definitely that swashbuckling element is in there as well. And also the whole, a lot of the Sherlock Holmes kind of stories is there's kind of like a secret society at work. And there's a secret society here with political undertones and controlling the people and using this beast to basically, to sway the masses, really.
It is old-fashioned. There's romance, there's adventure, there's a bit of, the government corruption and intrigue and stuff like that. It is also one of the most brazen attempts I've ever seen for, a French film to sort of emulate, to try and beat Hollywood at its own game, so to speak. But, I think it's a success on that level. I always have a problem. The clue's in the title already, but I do think it's kind of... I think it's always a cop-out when there's some big clandestine conspiracy and there's this big... I think that never... It always just kind of feels like a cop-out. But this film kind of does rush through that shit. It's not kind of lingered upon at the end.
No, I don't think it's to a spectrum at all. I don't mind that, because it's very much got this pulp adventure aesthetic, and I just found it so entertaining. It's just if you're a genre fan, you are just going to love this movie, because it just traverses all these genres and pays great lip service to all of them. It's just a really enjoyable film.
Yeah, it is. And it's quite twisty and quite unpredictable. Vincent Cassel's great. He's a perfect. Yeah, the part was tailor made for him, because you never know.
He plays a great sneering arsehole.
But because you're never sure how good he is, and then you're never sure how bad he is. You never know what his deal is completely, and he's great at playing off that. And I
think it was a great reveal as well. It's he's got there. I kind of like the fact it was kind of, he has this twisted attachment to his sister, but he's also got this twisted attachment that he's hiding this this deformed arm with these like ghetto hoochie fingernails under his armour. And also there's a lot in terms of the camera used as well. There's loads of kind of like nice long POV shots. I mean, he's just great. I think he's just great behind the camera, Christophe Gans.
Yeah, it's a very handsome looking film, and it's one of those movies that just on paper should not work in a million years. I mean,
it shouldn't work at all. Not at all, but it really does. Which is it's kind of out there in its own. There's nothing like Brotherhood of the Wolf.
I mean, there is, but they're all terrible.
But not French.
Well, I mean, I think I could probably name something that's vaguely. I mean, something that's this ambitious and this trying to be this many things at once. I mean, movies like this are almost always utterly terrible.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing I can't think of any. It's such a huge budget. It's so ornate. It covers all these genres and doesn't fall flat on its face.
Yeah. Another thing that I think is amazing about it is that as I was watching, I remembered so many things. I watch movies that I can't remember a week later. So much of this had stuck in my head since whenever it was 2001 when I first saw it. So that's impressive in itself. But yeah, a terrifically entertaining film. Something that just should have been a colossal. I mean, it feels like it should have been a horrendous turkey, but it's not. It's not at all. It's just terrific entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I would like to add to this is the score is really fantastic by Joseph. Joseph Leduc's score is amazing. It's filled with subtle tension. It's a blend of classical and horn arrangements, but it's at times eerie, mystical, and it drives the action set pieces really well. I mean, it's one of those soundtracks that I've went onto iTunes and I'm like, I bought it. It's fucking great.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, I was going to mention how cool the blowing up of the pumpkins with the musket scene was. I just love that. Just they're blowing the shit out of these massive pumpkins with muskets and tomahawks. It's just fucking great. It's peppered. It's a film peppered with like just great moments.
I agree.
Right. Okay, so let's head to our next film, which is Dog Soldiers, directed by Neil Marshall from 2002. A squad of British soldiers find themselves stranded in the Scottish wilderness after a training mission turns into a living nightmare. Dog Soldiers.
One of the most explosive, brutal, and purely enjoyable horror debuts since The Evil Dead. Genuinely frightening. Jaws, Aliens, and Predator with a werewolf twist. Absolutely brilliant. Thrilling. Mind your tongue! Exciting. Scary.
I don't scare that easy.
And funny.
I'm sold.
A horror film with bite.
You are.
Sarge! I'm in the closet! A bitch of a werewolf movie. Waiting! Dog Soldiers. It'll blow your house down.
Right, Chet. So, Dog Soldiers. Obviously, you've seen it. When was the last time you've seen it?
I think I haven't seen it since DVD, so it's been quite a while. Probably 10 years at least. What about you?
I think I saw it slightly more recently than that because I first watched it on DVD. But I remember there was a stage where it was just being played a lot on early morning ITV. So Dog Soldiers, 2018. What did you think?
I thought it was really, really excellent. A really, really good, really, really fine debut. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty terrific when I first saw it, and I think it still holds up really, really well. You're in good hands really early. I mean, there's the great opening with Kevin McKidd's character being established, but after that, there's the scene of the main characters, the squaddies, just arguing, and it's really, really authentic. The dialogue's so fast and so barbed that you can't even keep up with it. But it sketches those characters in almost one scene, and then immediately after there's a scene. My eyes rolled initially because I'd forgotten it. But Sean Pertwee starts talking about that. When he lost a friend in combat.
Oh man, I don't. The USS Indianapolis Jaws head nod. I really didn't mind that because Sean Pertwee's he's just so charismatic and engaging, and he's so obviously riffing on Quint from Jaws. I just ate it up.
So did I, but what I said is when it started out, I just thought, this is just... It is about character as well. It establishes his character for the rest of the film, so I thought that was actually really good. But initially I thought, oh God, here we go. I lost a friend in the war and I'm a mess because of it.
I love the camaraderie between that group, that squad of soldiers, and especially the relationship between Sergeant Harry, Sergeant Wells and Private Cooper, brothers in arms. It's just brilliant. And Sean Pertwee and Kevin McKidd are just great actors. actors.
Yeah, everyone's really good in it. Yeah.
Rewatching it, I'm so glad that it stood the test of time really well. And I was really worried that, due to them being a lot of practical effects, that they wouldn't have aged so well. But the practical effects have really held up well. The wolves, aren't really revealed in their full glory until quite far down the line. But I think the wolves are really good creatures. There's really good creature design there.
Did you watch the Blu-ray version?
Yeah, I watched is it? Fuck! I can't remember what the company's called. Is it Shout? Is that on yours as well?
Shout, yeah, the proper Bluray that was very recent.
They've done as good a job as they can, because I don't think it was great. It wasn't. I think it was shot on 16mm in the first place.
Well, I think what they've done. I think Neil Marshall was involved in the transfer because it's so much better than the DVD. In the DVD version, from what I remember, there was no blacks. There was no cut. They couldn't render the colour black very well. So the werewolves were really exposed, and they weren't really skulking around in the darkness. The image is still a little washed out and misty on the Blu-ray, but it's way better than the DVD. It kind of looked like there was remnants of dry ice everywhere, and it looked like a really, really sloppily done transfer, which made the werewolves look terrible. So yeah, it looks way better now. The illusions sort of goes on much longer than it did.
Yeah, I noticed that there's been a lot of blue being used, like tons of that 80s kind of used a lot in like Hellraiser.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely has that same kind of. Yeah, I know what you mean.
This is Neil Marshall's debut, and this is a guy that is evidently really in love with a lot of other sort of cult films. And some of that's quite explicitly explicit in the fact that one of the characters is called Private Bruce Campbell, and they end up in a kind of cabin in the woods, Evil Dead type, setting into the last half of the film. Yeah, I think it rattles along really well, and I like the fact that with the soldiers as well, they move like a team of soldiers. There's one scene where they're all they're getting in position, and you're like, fucking hell, that looks really legitimately like what a squad of soldiers would do getting in position. Yeah. And also, it immediately reminded me a little bit of Southern Comfort, which is a film we've covered on a previous episode. There's a group of soldiers on a training mission that goes completely awry. I think that the inclusion of Liam Cunningham as Captain Ryan, he is especially good as well, who's leading this special weapons division, which is the kind of the hush-hush experiment, which has kind of spawned these werewolf human like hybrids. He's brilliant. He just plays an amazing arsehole. And it's good to. Neil Marshall is someone that did you see the films he followed Dog Soldiers with?
I've seen most of them, I think. Yeah, some of them are really good. Some of them are really. Doomsday is the one that I think is a real stinker. But Centurion's great. The Descent obviously is terrific.
Yeah, the Descent is amazing. I love Descent. But he's done some great television work. He's done like standout episodes in Game of Thrones,
Westworld, and Hannibal as well.
Game of Thrones. I've seen the Game of Thrones episodes he's directed, which is the Watcher on the Wall, the Watchers on the Wall, which was the big battle that culminated between the Night's Watch and the Wildings, and also the Battle of Blackwater. So he does these big flagpole episodes of action in Game of Thrones. He's also done really good episode in Hannibal as well, which when you're introduced to the Red Dragon character. But I've read that he's going to be doing Hellboy, which I'm really excited about.
I think that this is a really, really beautifully edited film. I think the editing brings the most out of the performances. I think it cushions this is an obviously cheap film, and I think the editing disguises that really well, and it emphasises shocks really well. It just feels like a vigorous film because of how it's edited. Neil Marshall edited it himself. He's only edited this and Doomsday, I think, which is interesting because I think this is arguably his best film. I don't think it's better than The Descent, but it's arguably. And then Doomsday, I think, is inarguably his worst film. So the fact that those are the two films that he's edited, I think is quite interesting. But this is one of those films where I honestly believe that a different editor could have mangled the movie. I think that's a real...
I also think the visual effects are really good. The practical visual effects by Bob Keane have stood the test of time really well. He worked on Event Horizon and Hellraiser. Fun fact: the remains of the missing hikers, which were in the basement of the farmhouse, are actual cadaver props for Event Horizon.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really fine. It's a fine debut. I've seen micro-budgeted sort of genre mashups like this that are well acted, well directed, well written, but rarely all at the same time. And I think everything works here. Even the small. The comedy works. There are some small moments of slapstick which just absolutely kill, and some little one-liners. Sean Pertwee muttering sausages to himself.
Yeah, it's still fucking great.
Yeah.
And apparently he was pissed in that scene, and Kevin McKidd actually connects with him when the actual punch.
Punch, knock me out.
Yeah. I think it's very much a product of its time. I mean, that 90s lad culture is stamped quite strongly all over it. I mean, you've got lines like, I'm really craving a kebab. I mean, that's straight out the pages of, that's proper FHM fodder.
Yeah, true, that's true.
But it's interesting. I think it's a very English-centric film.
There are a couple of very small, iffy, nitpicky moments which I just thought, they try to wring suspense at one point out of the fact that a well-trained soldier can't ascend a rope, which I thought was a weird moment. And at least one of the gun battles is so hectic that you just think, well, everyone would be dead. I mean, everyone in the house would have been massacred by everyone just randomly firing shots all over the shop. But aside from that, it's a real crowd pleaser.
It was really cracking me up when the flashes of the cameras on the werewolves, it's like they're being packed. There were some really funny reactions when they're storming the house. There's just loads of visual gags going on. I mean, I love the fact that, the soldier, the most aggressive of the soldiers, is basically wanting to go like one-on-one with the wolf, and he's just got one of those typical ornate kitchen shelves of all the crockery. He's just chucking at the werewolf. Brilliant. With ending that exchange with, I hope I give you the shits.
This is a cheap movie, and although I think it's well disguised, the one area that is not disguised is you can never get away with synthesized orchestral music. It's like nails down a chalkboard. The soundtrack is so bad. It sounds like it cost about 5p.
I don't know. I thought that score, even though being synthetic, it was emotive and punchy and just full of percussion, which kind of rolled things along quite nicely.
It's so primitive now that it just sounds kind of, I mean, you could probably knock something up very similar on like a £20 Casio keyboard these days. But I think that was just the only sort of real sign of its cheapness. Otherwise, they managed to disguise that quite well, and it's just a great entertainment still, I think.
The bit for me that, I mean, and this is really sort of like a minor discrepancy, but it was something that was a bit like that would have liked that fleshed out a bit, is they don't really explain at all what the relationship between Captain Ryan and Megan is. There's no kind of time given to that at all.
Do you think that was needed?
Well, I'd like to have known a bit of the backstory. There was a lot of exchanges. There was a lot of looks being exchanged, and it was only like, what's that about? I'd like to know a bit more about that. How, what happened with that family and him, and there's nothing given to that, and I would like to have known a bit more about that dynamic. Oh, another minor quibble is trying to get the word bone put into the vernacular of everyone watching it. I mean, the amount of times that bone was used, that grated when I first watched it. As soon as they said it, I was like, oh shit. I remember them trying to shoehorn that in.
It's not a real thing, is it?
No, it's not.
I've never heard that outside of this movie.
It's one of those things where in a film they're trying to basically get some slang used by the audiences after the film.
Just to coin it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was. I really enjoyed watching it. Good times.
Where are you going with regards to picking one of these two?
This is tricky. I was really one of those things where I didn't really have a clear victor. They're such different movies. Yeah, have you got any idea where you're going? I mean, I just had a big question mark, really. I didn't know which way to go.
I didn't either, but thinking about it and having talked about them briefly, I think it has to go to Brotherhood of the Wolf, just because movies like that are attempted fairly often and they almost never work. But then again, I suppose you could say that about Dog Soldiers as well.
You could say that about Dog Soldiers.
Yeah, I mean, I'm stuck.
It's great. It really is great. The humour's great, the slapstick's great, the action's great, and also the fact that it was shot for $2 million. Is a real achievement.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I think Brotherhood of the Wolf is more likely to appeal to more people. I think it's going to last for a longer time, I think.
I find it really difficult with these two because they're just so different.
So what do you think?
I don't know. Brotherhood of the Wolf is such an undertaking. I mean, there were so more things that could have gone wrong with a huge budget, period piece. That was set up far more to fail than Dog Soldiers. So I think that in itself is a more of an achievement to have pulled it off. So in that respect, I'll go Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah, so that's your final answer, is it?
Yeah, let's go Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, I think they both should win, but
this is it. I don't like it. Really, it's one of the. It's one of these situations where they're both great movies. It feels kind of picking one against the other feels a bit. They're both deserving of a victory.
Well, I mean, I think it's a small victory, but I would just give the edge to Brotherhood of the Wolf. So I think I'm happy with that as a victor.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear what listeners think about these two films as well. It'd be really interesting to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, wicked. Well, look, that wraps things up for another episode. Thanks so much for listening to us. You can catch us on Twitter, Facebook. The episodes are being cut and are up on our YouTube channel as well. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another episode.
Take it easy. See you later.
Ciao, 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 ciao.